who are these customers, and where are they coming from, and where are the future customers coming from? Frank?
You know, a client, an all-inclusive client has really evolved. It's no longer what our parents used to be perceived as an all-inclusive client. You know, somebody joked about going to all-inclusive and getting beads and, you know, taking outdoor showers. That's truly how all-inclusive began. When you look at Club Med, their initial...
People still miss the beads, actually.
Yeah.
Some of the old Club Med people.
So their initial introduction to all-inclusives were buffet lines, beads, and outdoor showers. And it was fine because people didn't know any better. Obviously, that has evolved. And the taste and the type of clients has also evolved. People are demanding more. People are experiencing more. You know, a client could be families, singles, adults, kids, a cruise client. It could be somebody who went to Europe last year and is looking for a different type of experience. One of the conveniences that I see about all-inclusive is when you have large family groups and you can't get them all to agree on one particular destination or a particular product, all-inclusive is the perfect solution. But having said that, we're also seeing an evolution in what an all-inclusive client is looking for. We, and I'm going to talk about my company, we started all-inclusive 30 years ago, and we started in Mexico. We introduced the first ever all-inclusive in Mexico, believe it or not. And from then, we've had really evolved through the years, really meeting people's demands. This year, we're looking at launching a whole new brand, and I'm not really plugging the brand, but I'm explaining to you why we're launching this brand. People's mindsets have changed. People want to experience destinations. They no longer want to be confined to a property, so they're aspirational, inspirational, and experiential travel. And how do you accomplish that? By really introducing the best that destination has to offer within the property and encourage them to take tours and go outside and meet people and explore and dine. So our new brand, which is Unico 2087, tries to accomplish that through various programs. And I'm not going to go through all of them, but we're focusing on the next traveler who really wants to experience destination while we're providing the conveniences of all-inclusive. So even the client today continues to change. And I want to touch on something just quickly. You said, how do you avoid the clutter, and how do you really, you know, one of the things that I always talk to agents that I advise them, no longer look at yourselves as travel agents. You got to look at yourselves as influencers. One of the most strategic and important channels you have out there are the social channels. It's the cheapest, the most direct, and if you become a credible influencer, all this confusion shouldn't be a problem. Jennifer said it right. When she puts on Facebook, you have to go here. If she says it, it's a good product. So become an influencer. Make sure people believe your story. Make sure you're educated, you understand your product, you understand your client, and you'll have a lot of success as an influencer.
Okay, Frank, you got a reaction to that?
Yeah, I mean,
who the customers are?
I mean, I agree with Frank. You know, I always joke around with my staff, and I tell them, you know, they ask me, well, who's our customer? And I say, well, pretty much anybody has a passport today, because we have something that we can offer everyone, from the entry-level budget-type customer that might have been looking at a very low-end cruise to the high-end luxury customer looking for an unbelievable spa experience with butler service. I mean, you have product out there today that has that all-inclusive product with bungalows, and not to push, you know, any of my competitors, but I mean, even our LeBlanc property is it's rated a 5-star. TripAdvisor rated it as the #1 all-inclusive in Cancun. I mean, and the service there is just unbelievable. The quality of the food, everything's been raised to another level. So, I mean, today, who's our customer? As I tell the staff, it's anyone that has a passport that is interested in traveling. If you position our product correctly and tell them what we offer, our entire package, it would probably be somebody that'll end up going to an all-inclusive like Palace or LeBlanc.
Okay. Jennifer, you want to talk a little bit about who you see? I know a lot of your customers are honeymooners or destination weddings, but who is the customer today?
So some customers come to us specifically asking for destination. They don't want to go to a specific destination, or they do. So sometimes we have to ask, you know, do you know where you don't want to go? Because there's just so many, and you can start off on the wrong foot if you start introducing, you know, a destination they don't want to go to. But I think, you know, honeymooners it's safe. They have a budget because they're paying for their own weddings. A lot of millennials today are paying for their own weddings, so they have a set budget. We also provide a honeymoon registry, which allows guests to kind of pay off the honeymoon. So doing something that's not all-inclusive, you don't know what that bill's going to be at the end. Destination wedding, what's really unique about that is grandma might have a passport, but she never did an all-inclusive. So there's this multi-level generational travel that starts to come into play, and you can really reap the rewards when they come back because now they've traveled as a group and they want to do it again. So I actually think focusing on groups now and not just weddings is very, very important. People feel the safety of traveling together. Especially in the times that we're living in, safety is really important. So they all want to travel together, spend time together, and yet when that bar bill doesn't come, then they're all really happy.
You mean the one on the cruise ships that you get at the end?
Right.
Sorry.
So cruisers are, something that we can target to sell where they don't have that bill at the end.
Now, Steve and Scott, if you could talk a little bit about, again, what you see as the customer, who they are now and where they're going to come from in the future, maybe a little bit.
Sure. I think from our perspective, you kind of think that maybe it's an older crowd, baby boomers, et cetera. But actually, for us, we sell primarily to millennials, is really the biggest segment for us. And
where are they going in terms of the kinds of resorts they go to for all-inclusive?
Yeah, so it spans a bit, but I think with millennials, our experience is that they're typically looking for what's the best value that they can get at a particular price point. And in fact, if they have a price point in mind of $1,200, they might be willing to go to $1,300 or $1,400 in order to get that extra value that they're seeking. Our household income is usually $50,000 or higher, probably averaging around $75,000. We used to see a much more slanted kind of customer base where females tended to be the more frequent booker, maybe a 60-40 mix of female to male. And but nowadays, it's actually balancing out where it's just a slightly more females booking than males. And so we're actually pretty excited about that shift and those trends because I think if you can win with the millennials and you can develop the relationship with the client, you can maintain that relationship over time. And actually some of our best agents hardly ever take phone calls because they've built their book of business. And they are basically servicing that book of business each year rather than constantly having to go acquire new customers.
Yeah. Scott? You got...
Well, so our customers are the travel agent, and the brands have done an amazing job with creating lots of choice, like we've been talking about. So it's our job to have as much of a portfolio that allows the agent to go and take care of their existing customer base. But we do believe there's a lot of still aspirational travelers out there that just need to be introduced right to the all-inclusive experience, which will build them as loyal clients, keep coming back over and over. So for us, again, it's all about giving them the tools necessary, having the product offering, being able to give them great service, and being able to do that quickly, fast, making sure that the pricing is competitive. There's something I like to call the daughter-in-law syndrome. Every time you're planning a trip for someone, there's always that daughter-in-law that's actually not paying for the trip, but will try and find it cheaper somewhere else, right? And so we want to make sure that we debunk the daughter-in-law and that you guys are getting the best price and the best service and best value and information to close the sale for them.
And Steve, you mentioned earlier millennials. I remember, back when I was in college, we thought a spring break was driving 25 hours down to Fort Lauderdale and staying in a cheap motel on US 1. Today, it's going to an all-inclusive, so it's a different upscaling.
That was my
of this.
honeymoon.
That was your honeymoon.
Yeah, I have to say,
Your wife must be very proud.
So I'm from Texas, and so South Padre Island is like the big place to go. Well, I could never afford that, and so the first time I really went on a beach vacation that I paid for myself was actually an all-inclusive, and it was about 20 years ago, and it was let's say the European model, which is watered down beer, bad buffet, and after 3 days I thought I'd never want to go back. But nowadays, with this explosion in product and really an Americanization of many of these brands where when you go down, you can watch Monday Night Football, you can drink Bud, you can have M&Ms in your mini bar. It's something that I think more and more people are comfortable with. And I think the other thing that you notice, going back to the audience of who's traveling, more and more Americans are traveling. And so if you looked at the State Department data, 2012, about 36% of the population carried a passport. You look at 2016, it's 40%. So more and more people are traveling, and these are really some of the best, most value-based and easiest trips to take from a U.S. when you're talking internationally. And so I think it's going to continue to explode. There are many advantages from some of these substitute products, such as cruise, whereas with cruise, as an example, one of the tricks is that they typically depart from a particular port. So you got to get to the port in order to get on the cruise. But with an all-inclusive, generally you can find a direct flight, leaving in the morning, getting there by lunch, and you get a full day out of it.
Absolutely. And in fact, you mentioned cruises. I was talking to a cruise executive yesterday, and I said I was doing a panel on all-inclusives, and they said, well, are we on it? And I said, well, actually, no, we're talking about the land side, but clearly they are the competitor.